Hello, my name is Deb Matson, and I'm a sales engineer with Ipswitch. And today you are attending the What's Up Gold 2018 solution demonstration. The demonstration itself will be about 40 minutes. If you do come up with any questions after the demonstration, please reach out to your sales rep and they can enlist the help of myself or one of the other sales engineers to make sure you get all of the answers you need. Today, we are going to do an overview of the What's Up Gold 2018 solution. And in What's Up Gold 2018, we give you the ability to monitor more of what matters. If your interest is network devices and flow traffic statistics, physical and virtual servers and applications, or the monitoring of cloud availability and performance with AWS, Azure, or Outlook 365, we will give you more at a glance visibility through a single interface. What's Up Gold is extremely easy to deploy and use day to day, regardless of your role, whether you're management, a system or network administrator, or a technician. You will be able to find the level of information that is important to you in What's Up Gold. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully everyone can see my screen now. First, a little bit about What's Up Gold. So What's Up Gold is an agentless and applianceless solution. What I mean by that is it's software that's going to install on your Windows operating system or server, either physical or virtual. And we are agentless in that we're going to use industry standard protocols to gather information from the devices on your network. So SNMP, WMI, SSH, Telnet, TCP/IP, of course. There's no new hardware or nothing that you need to install on the target devices. We also have a SQL database backend that installs with What's Up Gold in SQL Express. However, you can use whatever current full version of SQL you would like. Very easy to do upon installation. You're just going to point out to that full SQL server by deselecting the Hide Advanced Options features in What's Up Gold. What we're looking at here is the web-based interface, and with the web-based interface in What's Up Gold, you can provide access to the information in What's Up Gold, and it can still be secured as well. That would be with a What's Up Gold created username and password, LDAP authentication, or Cisco ACS authentication. And in that way, you can give access but still be able to secure specific functions or data. So say for instance you have a New York office, and for that New York office you want to share just that information with the people there. You can provide that level of access. Or maybe you have some texts, and those texts you want them to just be able to see the information in What's Up Gold but not be able to modify anything. You can provide that level of access or anywhere in between. The place I like to begin is with discovery. As I mentioned, it is very easy to deploy What's Up Gold and get up and running. With the discovery engine, we will be able to quickly bring the devices into our network, and not only bring them into our network, but also start monitoring them based on the information that we find about those devices in discovery. There's a couple of different types of scans we can do. We can either do an IP address scan, a seed address scan, gateway, local subnets, or specific IP ranges. Or if you have a list of all the devices you want to bring into What's Up Gold, you can also do that via a host file. And then we will be able to understand also cloud devices. We'll need some additional credentials there to discover the cloud devices. And then we can expand to any virtual environments, any wireless environments, and also any storage environments that are NetApp, EMC, or Dell Compellent. With those environments, we will get some enhanced monitoring of the storage environments using SMIS credentials. However, we can monitor any storage environment via SNMP with whatever is available there. We're going to resolve host names, SNMP system names. We're going to do ping, credential, and port connectivity checks. What's really important in What's Up Gold when you discover your environment is to make sure you have the best possible credentials. And that's how we're going to understand what the devices are and what is important to monitor on them. That would be with SNMP, V1, 2, or 3, Windows, and I always suggest on your initial discovery to use a Windows domain admin type credential or service account, but something that has those administrative privileges. And then for your virtual environment, if it's VMware, we'll want the VMware root and the vCenter credential. Again, for storage environments, SMIS. And then for the cloud-based environments, we'll need the additional AWS, and Azure credentials. Also, we do have the capability to monitor Meraki Cloud wireless solutions, but we will need the credentials there as well. So once we have all the credentials added, we can do one of two things. We can schedule the discovery to run on a regular basis, or we can just run the discovery. Once we run the discovery, we will be brought to our discovered map. And in our discovered map, we will see all the devices that are coming into WhatsUp Gold and be also able to understand their connectivity. This is my discovered network. You can tell which items are newly discovered or discovered but not monitoring because they will be grayed out. And devices that you are monitoring in WhatsUp Gold will be either green or red. We'll be able to understand the devices, understand their connectivity, be able to zoom in and see what they are. So here's my Azure cloud infrastructure. Maybe I want to bring that in for monitoring. It is just a matter of selecting those devices and selecting Start Update Monitor. We're also going to provide this information in a list-based view if you prefer to look at it that way. Again, you can sort by whether those devices are monitored, by device type, or by header. Any of the list-based views in WhatsUp Gold are sortable just by clicking the top and sorting them in whatever way makes sense to you. Once the devices are discovered, we will be able to bring them in for monitoring. As I showed you, you'll just select Start Update Monitoring. Oh, one thing that's also very important here, I told you we're going to get a lot of information from the devices based upon the credentials. And one thing that's very important that we will get from those devices is a device role. So when we discover the devices, we're going to understand what it is. And that's important because based upon what that device is, will help us understand what is important to monitor right out of the box with WhatsUp Gold. Is it a router, switch, firewall? Is it a Windows server? And once we have brought those devices into WhatsUp Gold for monitoring, we will be able to see them in a map view. And here, this is my network, and we can see all of the devices that I'm monitoring. Green means everything is up on the device. Red in the corner means something is down on the device. You can click on it and immediately see what's down. This is a Windows server, and it has one of its two monitors down. It does have a service that is down on that device. And then if a device is completely red, it means that it is no longer accessible or pingable. When we discover the devices, we're also going to be able to understand them from a layer 2 perspective. We are going to map those devices in a way that makes sense. Let's take a look at my core infrastructure. This is my core infrastructure, and I will be able to see the devices, but I will also be able to see the connectivity between those devices. And if I zoom in further, we'll actually see the interfaces that connect those devices together. And then we're also going to have an overlay with the interface utilization links, and we can apply this overlay, and in that way we can see the connectivity between the two devices, but we'll also see the status of that link. So that link can be either solid green, it can be red or yellow. And what it means is solid green is going to tell us that we are less than 80% from point A to point B. If it is yellow, it is between 80 and 90%. If it is red, it would be above 90%. We're also going to have the ability in WhatsUp Gold to set devices as what's called a root device. And that builds a dependency from that core device to the devices outside of there. And that is important because if you do have your core go down for some reason, you know you're going to have outages beyond there. And by setting it as a root device, this will prevent the firestorm of alerts that you might see if your core device goes down. We can also set any kind of dependency we would like. It does not just have to be a root dependency. It could be that we have some specific monitor on a device that is dependent upon another monitor on another device. What I want to show you next is the detail you can get from a device on a map view. You can click on a device in a map view and you will be presented with a display card. The display card is a quick summary of information about that device, what it is, and which performance monitors are on that device and their current status as far as this happens to be a switch. So on this particular switch, we picked up CPU, memory, interface, and ping response time. And then also, if this was to have any down monitors, they would be presented here. From the device card, we will also see a properties page, which we can click to. And here we will get more information about the device. We'll get the specific IP, we'll get the role of that device, and just from discovery, we picked up all of these items to monitor. On the standard network gear, routers, switches, and firewalls, we will pick up fan, temperature, power supply, ping. We'll pick up all of the interfaces from the device, and we will begin monitoring the interfaces that are active during discovery. However, at any time you can turn off those interfaces from being monitored. And we'll also pick up some performance monitors for items that will give us the ability to report on trends and then also alert on thresholds, and that would be for CPU, interface, memory, ping latency, and availability. Those will be the things that we will pick up from the network gear. And again, with the ease of use in WhatsUp Gold, all you have to do is discover the device, bring it in for monitoring, and it will understand and begin monitoring that device. We'll also be able to see the attributes of the device. This particular device is a Cisco device, so that is the MAC vendor. We'll see model, MAC address, contact description, location, name, hardware rev, firmware rev, and software rev. Again, getting a lot of important information about the devices in your network. We're also going to bring in the printing infrastructure, the storage infrastructure. Let's go to the virtual infrastructure. In WhatsUp Gold, we are going to have an understanding of your virtual environment. We'll also have another overlay called virtual overlay. And with this virtual overlay, we will be able to understand that virtual environment and visualize the connectivity between the hosts and the devices deployed off the host. We'll be able to understand what's up and what's down on those devices. We can click on them and look at them at a point in time. What we're going to get from servers by default is disk, CPU, memory, ping availability. We'll also see if there are any down active monitors on the device. It looks like I have a service down on that device. And under the properties page, we will be able to see a little bit more about that device. This happens to be a Windows server. I'm monitoring one service. This did not come in automatically, but everything else came in automatically. So ping, CPU, disk, memory, ping latency and availability, and VMware Data Store IOPS. That information came in from Discovery, and that's what we would expect to see on Windows or Linux devices, with the exception of the VMware data store if it's not a VMware device. And then we can go to the status of this device and take a look at the information over time and see how it's performing. And we can also do this with the network gear as well. But what we'll see here is under the monitoring tab, we'll see what monitors are on the device, both performance and active monitors. We'll understand the device monitor states when they've gone up to down. Under the General tab, we'll see a little bit more information about the device. This looks very much like the attributes page that we saw at the device level. And then we'll also see ping response time. You can hover over and see what that looks like at a point in time. We'll see disk, CPU, and memory. And right now I'm looking just at yesterday. For CPU, memory, again, you can hover over and look at it at a point in time. Ping response time. If there was more than one disk on this device, we would see all of the disks availability there. And here we can look at any time frames. Maybe we want to look at last week and see how this device performed last week. You can do that. We can also export any of the device status pages, or actually any report type page in WhatsUp Gold. And then we can either send it to text, PDF, or Excel, or we can schedule it and have it run on a regular occurrence. Let me go back to a network gear here. And what we'll see under the network gear is we will also see this tab that is router switch interface, where we can see statistics for interface traffic. Again, you can hover over and see what that looked like at a point in time, and interface utilization. And these as well can be exported, text, PDF, or Excel, or over a point in time. This was for yesterday, but maybe we want to do the previous month, and we can run a report in that fashion. Let's go back to my network. Another thing I wanted to point out on the virtual devices, we're also going to have the ability to look at that virtual environment as a whole. If we go to Dashboard, Virtual Monitoring, and you can select a host from a drop-down list. What we'll see on the left-hand side are the attributes of the host. What that device is. This is a ESXi, and it's 6.5 on a Dell PowerEdge. It has 3 VMs. All of them are powered on. We'll see the attributes of the host as far as CPU utilization, memory utilization, disk utilization, and interface utilization. And then on the right-hand side, what we'll see is all of the devices deployed off of that host and their utilization as far as disk, CPU, memory, and interface utilization. That's what we'll see for the virtual environment, giving you an overview of that virtual environment from the host level. Let's take a look at our cloud infrastructure. In WhatsUp Gold, we are also going to be able to understand our cloud environment. We can understand from the AWS NM, this happens to be our cloud-based environment, and we will see all of the devices that are available through that cloud source. We will show you a visible representation of what is happening on your network and be able to quickly understand what's going on with the devices, what is their current state, and that can be, again, either from a map-based view or a list-based view. So far, we talked about the architecture of WhatsUp Gold. We talked about preparing the devices by having the best possible credentials. We talked about discovery and what we're going to get immediately from discovery, the ability to bring those devices in and begin monitoring things that make sense on those devices without really any intervention on your part. The next thing I would like to share with you are all of the things that we can monitor in WhatsUp Gold. And what I like to say is if there is a way for us to get information from the device, we can create a monitor. We have 3 basic types of monitors: active, passive, and performance. Active monitors are going to go out every 60 seconds by default and look for a yes, no, up, down type answer from the devices on your network. And that would be for things such as ping, fan, temperature, power supply. But there are many things you can monitor. You can monitor with an active script, JScript, VBScript, PowerShell, APC UPS monitor. This is a multi-monitor that's going to look at many aspects of the APC UPS, battery life, voltage, any alarms that it may be receiving. We have a cloud resource monitor that is going to show us billing type information for a cloud resource. We're going to have DNS, which is a port monitor, email. Exchange is a multi-monitor that's going to check various aspects of Exchange. Fan temperature and power supply we talked about already. It will begin monitoring those automatically on the network gear. We have a file content monitor, which is going to give us the ability to say we have a device that we don't really have access into. Maybe we can ping it, but the only thing we can find from it is that it will log something to a log file or a text file, maybe a word or a string or a numeric value. We can interrogate a file, a log file, or a text file with this file content monitor and look for those occurrences and monitor based on that. We have file and folder monitors, and those are going to give us the ability to look at either application mandatory files or folders or security mandatory files or folders, and that could be for things like last date modified, present size, does it exist, checksum. We have an FTP monitor, which is a port monitor. HTTP content monitor is a website monitor. The way that this works is it's going to go to a specific website. It will present you with the source from that page, And then you can choose some unique piece of source to make sure that that's available for monitoring. We're going to have JMX, Network Statistics, NT Service to monitor any Windows service. We'll have Ping Monitor, which is going to be on by default on every device that we bring into WhatsUp Gold, but we'll also have Ping Interval Jitter Monitor. Power supply, PowerShell, we already talked about. A printer monitor is another multi-monitor that's going to look at various aspects of your printer. That will use a standard print MIB and interrogate for things such as ink levels, paper levels, any alarms that you might be receiving. You can monitor any process either with SNMP or WMI. SMIS monitor is going to be for your storage environment. SNMP and SNMP extended monitors, you can monitor any SNMP OID. We have a SQL query monitor. This one is going to give you the ability to go from WhatsUp Gold to a specific SQL instance using ADO credentials and be able to run a query and look for a numeric return that we will then monitor. And we'll have a SQL Server monitor, which is a multi-monitor. It's going to look at various aspects of your SQL Server. SSH, an SSL certificate monitor. This is going to give you the ability to understand if your cert is getting ready to expire. It will begin alerting you 30 days out. For storage monitoring for NetApp EMC and Dell Compellent, we're going to have a storage controller health, disk drives, file system, LUN, and pool. TCP/IP is a port monitor, Telnet, temperature, VoIP for Cisco Call Manager, WMI and WMI formatted monitors. And what's great about WhatsUp Gold is we license per device, not per monitor. So you can monitor as many things on a device that are important to you. And another thing that's great about WhatsUp Gold, say you do create a monitor, that monitor will be reusable on any device where that information is present. So you will create it one time and you can apply it to multiple devices in a single push, or be able to also build that into a device role. And in that way, if a device is discovered that meets that role, it can begin monitoring it automatically. For performance monitors, the active monitors are going to go out every 60 seconds by default and look for a yes, no, up, down type answer. The performance monitors are going to go out every 10 minutes by default, and they're going to look for a variable numeric return, which will give us the ability to alert on thresholds and report on trends. And that would be for ActiveScript, APC UPS, any AWS CloudWatch performance monitor, or Azure billing performance monitor, or standard performance monitor JMX, PowerShell, SNMP, SQL, SSH, any Windows or WMI performance monitor. Now we're collecting a lot of important information in WhatsUp Gold. What can we do with that information? We can take action, and the actions can be either alert type actions or remedy type actions. We're also going to have the ability for the performance monitor to be able to alert based upon a threshold. So let's take a look at that. And this functions more like a knock in that it's a truly escalated alert. So we're going to have many pre-built thresholds already in WhatsUp Gold, and that would be for the standard things: disk CPU, interface, memory, ping availability, and ping response time. Let's take a look at disk utilization, for instance. Here, what we'll see is the ability to set a threshold. We have many pre-built thresholds, but you can create as many thresholds as you want. So here I'm looking at disk utilization at 95%, but maybe on your SQL servers, you know that 75% could be critical because they can grow really fast. So you could create your own threshold for 75%. And we can say we want to know if that has exceeded the 75% for more than 30 minutes. And then we can select the devices to monitor. Since this is a special threshold, I would just select my SQL Server group to be monitored. And then I can take a notification. And we want to make sure that we're checking the threshold more frequent than our threshold is based. So we'll say we're going to check the threshold every 10 minutes so that we can meet that down for 30 minutes. And then here, we'll say we want to alert our WAN team, which is going to be our tier 1 support. So we'll alert them when that occurs, but maybe after 2 hours, I want to alert my tier 2, and after 4 hours, alert Jason because he's the one who is going to manage the SQL servers. But he doesn't like to be bothered on nights and weekends, so I'm going to put a blackout schedule there. And then also make sure I alert my tier 2 support in that occurrence. We can also take a repeating step. Maybe we know that if we do have drives that are exceeding utilization, they may be virtual and we may need to provision more resources, or they may be some physical ones and we'll actually need to order more hardware. In any case, we want to make sure that we have a repeating step to alert at least once a day. So we make sure that those things have been taken care of. That is Alert Center. We want to also make sure that we automatically resolve items no longer out of threshold. There are some customers who want to address every single one of these alerts and make sure that they're being handled. In that case, you would deselect this. Now that we have set up the disk utilization threshold to alert, we're also going to have a dashboard view where even if we don't have alerting set up, we can come in and look and see how things are performing. Here we can say disk utilization exceeds 95%. Oh, I do have a couple of devices that have exceeded that. From this dashboard view, we can dig directly into those devices and go to disk utilization. And right now, the last pulled value on this particular drive is 97.8%, but maybe I thought I had a lot more room than that. So maybe I want to go for the last 2 months. Oh, well, it looks like I've always been in the 90s here, so I've jumped from 95 to 98. It looks like I had a big jump on the 23rd. So that way we can understand over time how things are performing. Those are some of the actions that we can take to alert based on a threshold. Actions are available either through email, SMS. We can also, as I mentioned on the active monitors, take many remedy type actions, and those can be to do things such as run an active script. You can do a program action, a service restart action, an SSH action, a VMware action, which would be to do things like power off, power on, reset, shut down, suspend, restart, or take a snapshot of that VMware device. So lots of things we can do, and all of those can be built into specific policies as well to do various things at different time frames. The next thing that we can do is analyze. We have many pre-built dashboards in WhatsUp Gold. This dashboard that we're looking at right here is a WhatsUp Gold overview. This is going to give us a quick overview of how our devices are performing in our network. We have 125 that are up, 11 that are down. Maybe we want to see those 11 that are down. We can click on that and immediately be presented with those devices are down. The last view that I was looking at here was a list-based view, so it came in a list-based view, but we can also look at that from a map-based view and see exactly which devices those are. We can zoom in and understand what is going on there. And then we'll also have an understanding of what is the composition of the devices in my network. We have some Windows devices, some routers, some Meraki wireless environment. We can understand our network coverage. Based on all the devices I've discovered in WhatsUp Gold, I had 441 devices. However, I'm only monitoring 136. We'll also see our enabled active monitors. We can then go to a top 10, and the top 10 is going to give us the top 10 worst states of the devices on our network. That can be from things such as interface errors and discards, interface utilization, CPU, disk, memory utilization, interface traffic, and ping availability. And from these dashboard views, we can dig down further into those devices as well. So maybe we want to see what's going on. This is not terribly high CPU utilization, but say it was higher and we did want to see what was going on right now, we can go to that specific device CPU and then go to a real-time performance monitor, and this will begin showing us right now what is going on with that CPU. If there were more than one CPU, we would show that as well. And then we could say maybe we want to know, we know disk utilization is high on this device. We want to see what's going on right now. We can go right from here to that device status and dig deeper into that device as well. What's great about the dashboard views is you can create any dashboard view that is important to you. Here I created a screen view, and this just shows my status overall. Maybe I want this on a big board in the NOC so that it's easily visible what's going on with the devices in my network. In any case, in WhatsUp Gold, all of the information that you're capturing about the devices is saved in these reports. So any of the information can be captured and displayed in any of the dashboard views that make sense to you. Here is my application monitoring dashboard, and I'm looking at a couple of applications. I'm looking at Active Directory and SQL, and I can quickly see at a glance what's going on with my applications. Any of the dashboard views, as I mentioned, can be exported to text, PDF, or Excel. We're also going to have some standard reports that are going to be available. Maybe you want to do a report on disk utilization, and this is going to be for all of the devices that are collecting disk utilization. However, you can select any individual device or any group of devices. Maybe we're only concerned about my Atlanta devices. I can dig down to those and see what's going on for disk utilization in my Atlanta office. Again, right now I'm looking at the last poll value. We can say we want this for last week, and this is a report we want to run every Monday, and we can schedule that report and have it run and sent to whoever that information will be important to. And that is going to be for any of the reports. We'll have all of the performance reports. We'll have network reports such as interface traffic, interface errors and discards, ping availability and response time. While we're looking at Analyze, one thing that is important is network traffic analysis. In WhatsUp Gold, we have the ability to monitor flows, and that can be either Cisco NetFlow version 157 or 9, Ncell or IPFix. And with that, we can understand exactly what's going on with the traffic in your environment, not just what the percentage is of utilization or of traffic, but really understand what it's doing. So we can understand who are the top interfaces by utilization, top interfaces by traffic. Oh, I also have that in here another way to show you that you can set up these little reports that are in a larger report. We call them wuglets, but you can set up these little wuglets in whatever way that's going to make sense to you to view. So pie, vertical, horizontal, line, or stack. Top conversation, who's talking to who? What application are they using? What percentage of the bandwidth? Top applications, what are the top applications that are being used? Who are the top endpoints? And any unclassified traffic. We can also see top senders and receivers. We'll see the top senders, the top protocols, top receivers, top sender and receiver cities. This one may be of interest. I know the other day we had a lot of traffic going to China, which was unusual for us and something we needed to investigate. Top ports, top sender and receiver domains. And then under troubleshooting, we'll have top senders and receivers with the most failed conversation partners. I don't have any in the last 30 minutes. Let me go to yesterday. I should have some there. Actually, yesterday was Sunday, so maybe not. So we'll go for all of today instead of the last 30 minutes. And we'll see top senders and receivers with the most failed connections, which could indicate that we have some kind of viral activity. Maybe we have a botnet in our environment. Top senders and receivers with the most conversation partners, packet size distribution, and any unclassified traffic. Giving you a good understanding of what's going on your network, and you can also filter down to any specific data, and those filters can be for protocols, conversations, applications, senders and receivers, types of service, and dig deeper into all of the information that you're collecting in WhatsUp Gold. Another thing that I want to share with you is application monitoring. As I mentioned in WhatsUp Gold, there are many, many things that we can monitor on the devices in WhatsUp Gold. We're also going to have what is called application monitoring. Application monitoring gives us the ability to look at an application as a whole and be able to better understand what's going on with an application. And we can do that with what are called application profiles. An application profile is a accumulation of all things that make sense to monitor on a specific application type. For instance, right now I am looking at Oracle, SQL, and Active Directory. Let's take a look at my Active Directory server. So again, a profile is a combination of all the components that make sense to monitor on that device based on manufacturer standards and best practices. So as a part of Active Directory, these are all the things that I'm monitoring. I'm monitoring some services, some WMI counters to determine the state of Active Directory. What we'll see on the left-hand side is a status over time, and we can understand if we were having trouble or if things were in warning or downstate and be able to look at them. Right now we're looking at today, but maybe this was an application and your users are complaining that every day things slow down about 2 o'clock. You can take a look at that at the previous week and see, are you seeing the same kind of occurrence? And if you are, what are the things that are going in warning or going down that are affecting this application? And we can see here we're having an issue with the processor queue length. So we can click on that and dig deeper into just that individual component, and we can see exactly when that's gone into warning or into a down state, giving you the ability to look at an application as a whole. Another component of WhatsUp Gold that is always available is the ability to monitor your wireless environment. In WhatsUp Gold, we're going to understand what devices comprise your wireless environment, and those will be displayed in our Layer 2 maps as well, and we can click on that. And then we can apply what's called a wireless overlay. And in this way, we can better understand what's going on with our wireless environment. We'll be able to see the controller and the access points. We'll be able to see the devices that are presently accessing that access point. We can click on it and see who that is. That particular access point has 5 clients. We'll also be able to analyze this information over time. So if we go to our Analyze tab, Dashboards, Wireless, we'll be able to see information such as bandwidth, traffic. We'll see a summary of the systems. We'll see the wireless LAN controllers, access points, clients, signal strength, signal to noise ratio, SSIDs and rogues, and then we'll also be able to hover over that and see what that was at a point in time. We'll see client and rogue type information and CPU and memory. And new in version 2018 is the ability to monitor the Meraki cloud-based wireless infrastructure as well. I know we covered a lot of information. We covered the architecture of WhatsUp Gold, preparing your devices for discovery, and what you'll monitor out of the box. We talked about all of the additional monitors in WhatsUp Gold, actions, being able to analyze all of the data that you're collecting in WhatsUp Gold, virtual application and wireless monitoring, and network traffic analysis. I hope this was helpful for you. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your sales rep, and they will enlist the help of myself or one of the other sales engineers to make sure that any questions that you may have can get answered. Thank you so much for your time today. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.